Let's get our beers. Welcome to
beers.
Wait, I got to light seltzer first. Welcome to Bitcoin Magazine Happy Hour, everyone. I'm your host, Colin Harper. I'm with Michael Tyberg and Brandon Green. We've got an abomination of natty light seltzer to drink today, so let's get at it, boys. Actually, we're starting a little later than cheers.
Cheers.
We're starting a little later than usual today because Brandon bought these and I had to go and get real beer. But I'm a good sport, so I'm gonna try this. And if it's bad, then I'm gonna probably try to finish it because that's being wasteful.
Not as bad as I thought it would be.
Pretty pleasant, huh?
Yeah, that's
You can drink a couple of these.
I gotta admit that's not bad. But I guess the thing is with hard seltzer too, it's not like beer where it's like you have to cut back on ingredients. Like you literally just need to carbonate the water and get the flavoring, and then you just I don't know what they use for alcohol.
Take a sip for a second. Take a sip. Close your eyes. Tell me that you're not on a beach in Mexico.
No, dude, I feel like I'm in a frat house. Like I'm gonna be honest.
This episode was sponsored by Natural Light Seltzer. No,
I
thought the reason why I got them was first and foremost to hear you guys ridicule me, but secondly because it's the winter months, everyone's starting to put on their winter coats, and this is very low calorie, low carb.
Yeah, but people are drinking porters and stouts because it's winter.
Right, but I'm the as a Bitcoiner, I am
against the grain.
I'm against the grain.
Literally against the grain.
Literally,
that's
against the grain. There's no grain in this thing.
So we're drinking seltzer today, boys.
All right, well, boys, let's see. On the docket today, we've got messaging through Lightning.
Let's just start with that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I want to kind of go. I want to go through the table of content so that people know what they can expect and they can skip forward if they don't want to listen to us talk about certain things.
Yeah, that's fair.
So first thing we're going to talk about is messaging through Lightning. Specifically, use Jaeger's WhatsApp, which is not an application so much as it is an open source code base that people can use, and also Sphinx Chat, which is about to enter beta. Both really cool projects. Then we're also going to talk about Phineas Fisher throwing bows out there and calling for people to hack into an American oil company and some companies in Israel. He's offering 100K Bitcoin bounty or Monero, but I don't really think people are going to take Monero. Probably take Bitcoin. And also we're going to talk about the recent price action. So, yeah, let's go ahead and dive right into it.
Can't tell you when the next two topics will be on the timeline of the episode length, but just skip through a third of the way through if you want to hear the other topics, I guess, since that's why you gave us the topics.
Thanks for clarifying. Well, we also do it every week too.
Gotta have
structure.
Each week is different.
Okay, that's fair.
All right.
I don't know. You'd want to skip this though because Lightning messaging sounds freaking cool.
Super cool. And it's it's something that's been this is not anything new. Same thing with the base layer. You've been able to send messages on Lightning for a while, but as Yus was explaining to me when I wrote the article, he was basically saying a recent update to the Lightning protocol has made it easier to attach what are called type length values to transactions, which is basically just a way to add optional or extraneous data to a data packet. And so anyway, Homeboy went on Twitter and basically demoed his WhatsApp thing. I think, when was that? Yeah, November 2nd. So it's been a while now. But yeah, so it's super cool. It's basically encrypted messaging through the Lightning network.
And I guess this is close to the op return, utilizing the op return in a regular Bitcoin transaction for Lightning.
So what it is so the way use solution works is let's assume, for instance, that we have a private channel with each other. Then basically what we do is I would send you a payment, so a one sat payment, and I would attach a message to it, and then essentially you would reject the payment but extract the message. So you're basically sending failed messages to each other back and forth, which allows you to, again, send the payment but then not actually be charged for it, and then the receiver of the payment and the message can still extract the message from it.
Interesting.
And then Sphinx Chat, and Jaegers can do this too. It doesn't just have to be a bidirectional payment channel. They can be routed. But Sphinx Chat works a little differently in that, and I'll read you the quote from the article. Paul, I'm going to mispronounce his name. I'm so sorry, Paul, if you're listening to this. Paul Aitoa, or Aitoa, I don't know. But he says, that both apps are similar, but Jaeger's is designed to avoid fees since it uses a failed payment to deliver the message. This is currently free on the Lightning Network, so you could use this today if you had a message or a channel open with someone. But Sphinx inserts the message in the TLV and uses keysend to deliver, and sender fees will apply. So for the Sphinx chat thing is like the payment itself is actually getting routed all the way to the recipient, so you're still going to have to make a payment. And so you're basically just attaching the message through the TLV into the payment. And it's interesting because, you know, if you're doing it with a channel open with someone bidirectional, then there's no need to have the payment because you could just keep, you know, sending failed payments back and forth to each other. But if you don't have a route with someone, then you're going to have to route it through some nodes. And then, you know, so like a fee market for this use case would probably organically manifest.
Yeah. I mean, the two quick first thoughts that I have is like, number one, it sounds like this is going to be the real first test of like the capacity and like the throughput of the Lightning Network. Because I feel like it's really easy to start spamming messages and see exactly how long it takes to break Lightning. So that'll be an interesting thing to kind of watch for. And number two, it also sounds like a really good way to encourage people to start setting up channels with each other.
Right.
Because it's like, I know I need to message, you know, Colin and Michael a lot. I'm going to set up a channel with Colin, and a channel with Michael, and we can just message back and forth from now on without having to worry about any sort of routing issues, any sort of fees being taken from routing nodes. Like, sounds like it's a much better system in terms of like private, you know, secure messaging.
For sure. Yeah. And like, so did you have something you wanted to add?
No, I think it's so cool. Like, this is one of those few, or it's one of the first, I think, applications that's coming out with Bitcoin and Lightning as a stack that has nothing to do with transactions. And I was saying this earlier, like, obviously you can think anything's a transaction, but for there to be things that you can use Bitcoin and Lightning for that have nothing to do with, you know, anything with owing someone money or wanting to send money, it's pretty badass.
Yeah.
And, like, this is completely anonymous, too. It's, like, the first truly anonymous messaging system.
I'm actually glad you mentioned that because, yes, but there are attack vectors, just like with anything, in terms of de-anonymizing users. So
really? Okay, hold on. Yeah. So walk me through.
Yeah. So for instance, like let's say that you have to route a payment, right? So like we don't have a channel open with each other for whatever reason, but I want to text you like, yo, bro, what's up? Like, what you doing tonight, baby?
Yeah.
Like if I was gonna send that to you and let's say it had to be routed, let's say it hits 10 nodes on that route. Well, if 5 of those nodes are controlled by one entity, they might have a pretty good idea about who the sender and the receiver is, because basically the way this works, and the reason it's called Sphinx Chat, for instance, is because the Sphinx protocol was just implemented into, I think, all the Lightning implementations.
Well,
Wait, hang on. Just let me finish.
Okay.
So what Sphinx is it's onion routing. So, you know, it's the way the Tor network works. The way Tor network works is you have 3 different server types.
Okay.
And like, for the sake of simplicity, you know, there's like the first server that sends information, and then the intermediate servers, which basically only see who they're receiving information from and who they're sending it to. And then you have an endpoint server, which basically it knows the last hop, you know, in the sequence, but it doesn't know where it came from, and that's the same thing with the server that starts the transactions, where, you know, they know who's sending the information, they know who's querying the data, but they don't know its destination. So for something like this, if one entity controlled 5 nodes in a 10 hop payment, they might be able to deduce who has sent the funds, especially if they control the first node in the hop, and who it's going to if they control the last node in the hop.
Okay,
so does that make sense?
But they still wouldn't be able to read the message, would they?
No, they wouldn't be able to read the message.
They wouldn't be able to read the message, and also, aren't the hops not determined? Like, you can obviously set them up so you know the route that the path is, or that the message is taking, or the transaction is taking, but the odds of someone controlling all the nodes and the hops are slim to none.
There's I
wouldn't say slim to none, because so a few things, like there are a few actors who control a lot of the liquidity on the Lightning Network. But, and they have channels
are the
open
hops
with
random
everyone.
Or not?
No, I mean, because it can't be random, right? So, like, for instance, like, if I was trying to get to you, but I had, like, let's say I had a channel open with Brandon, and then Brandon had a channel open with Graham, and then also Christy, then, like, but let's say that Graham didn't have a channel open with you, but Christy had a channel open with you, right? So I couldn't route it through Graham, because it would have to go to Christy to get to you.
But that's the protocol determining on its own, right, that it would take a certain path.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's randomized to an extent.
To an extent.
Assuming that you're connected to more than one like path.
Yeah, to an extent. So it could be, but like the idea here being though still like if there are dominant players in Lightning, and again this assumes a malicious actor, right? Like this assumes actual surveillance. But you know like companies like CipherTrace and Elliptic and Chainalysis have nodes set up so that they can do blockchain analysis. Like they will eventually do this with Lightning. Like they're eventually going to run Lightning nodes so that they can de-anonymize.
I've also seen though that they're like not entirely sure yet whether they can, like whether they'll actually be able to succeed and like tracking the Lightning network. So I think it's still a big question mark. And then even still, your attack vector you're talking about, like you know, if we're putting it in real world terms, they'd be able to know that Trump talked to Ukraine, but they still couldn't prove quid pro quo. So it's like how helpful is it in terms of really gathering data?
Right, that's a big part of it for sure.
And again, worst case scenario, you just set up the channel with Michael because you're going to be messaging him, and then boom, you don't have that issue at all.
So like if you're a little well connected, like if you're well connected in any regard, or even just connected to more than like a couple people, it sounds like it's pretty hard to like mess it up.
Right. And also, but there's also a way to spy from the IP and TCP level, like where like like if you were an internet service provider, you could theoretically figure out like who that
where it came from and where it went.
Yeah, so like I'll read the quote that from the article when I was asking Jaeger to explain attack vectors. In the article, I say, in some cases, then it might be better for users to set up direct payment channels with each other. And that's, for example, if someone's trying to spy using nodes, if you have a direct payment channel, then boom. Like, no one's going to be seeing that except for you and the person who's receiving it. But in this case, i.e. a direct payment channel would be more private if the nodes were surveilling. But if the surveilling party were an internet service provider and tracking TCP/IP addresses, then onion routing would be more private. Again, like, but this is to say, like, obviously nothing is bulletproof, but like it is pretty airtight. And I was asking Jaeger, I was like, why would anyone use this when we have Keybase or when we have Signal, right? Like, I use both of those; they're great. And basically, what he said was, he was saying, chatting over Lightning makes it much harder to find out who's communicating with whom, so it is theoretically more private. It is not required to have a direct TCP/IP connection between users, and there is no central server either that could reconstruct the communication pathways. The other good thing about this too, if your encrypted chat is built on Lightning, then you have the robustness of a decentralized network in the sense that Keybase's servers could go down and you're fucked.
Right. I was also going to bring up, I'm pretty sure I saw this on Ed Snowden's Twitter, but it came up recently that Signal actually got bought by an American company. And like didn't disclose that to anyone pretty recently.
Really?
And so like you also run the risk of ultimately like you're trusting this third party kind of with who knows how much data because it's not open source. You don't really know how everything's working on the back end. Like who knows if they put some sort of update in there that
or some backdoor.
Yeah. I mean, so there's a lot of value to this.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you use Lightning? Because obviously you can use Bitcoin without having total internet access or even any internet access if you use stuff like radio waves or whatever. Can you use Lightning with the same low level, not like the same internet capacity as Bitcoin?
I mean, I don't know what you mean by that, but you definitely have to be connected to the internet to use Lightning.
Are you saying with the same
Bitcoin?
Are you saying with the same bandwidth?
Well, bandwidth is like. I feel like that's a little bit subjective here because sometimes it's not the same medium. It's like sometimes it's radio waves, but I'm just wondering if like there's a way to use Lightning without having the I guess just in the most simple what's the barest form? What's in the most barest way you can use Lightning?
I mean, probably if you had a mesh network set up, but like Brandon said,
so you can use Lightning on the mesh network.
Yeah, as long as because the mesh networks will connect you to the web. Stuff. Yeah, but like Brandon said though, and this is also like one of the downsides to this. Is like if your node isn't online, then you can't receive anything.
Right.
Oh, right. Yeah. It needs to be online.
Right.
It can't be.
It's not.
Yeah.
It right.
To be online.
Yeah.
I remember Blue Matt talking to I think it was Pete McCormick in one of his earliest episodes, and he was like the downside to Lightning and the one that we still can't get around is literally you have to be connected to the internet for this to work. Yeah. Period. So
that answers my question. Because then you have to have a much better internet connection to use Lightning, and it can't be one of those things that you use in a field, in the hills with some radio antennas and stuff.
Yeah, and I think it makes less sense, at least from my limited understanding. Like, it makes less sense to turn your node on, run it, and use it, and then turn it off. Like, it kind of has to be running as much as possible for it to kind of fully be benefited.
Yeah, because I think you have to,
network.
every time you do that, you break the connection.
Well, yeah, and plus you wouldn't want to, like, turn your node off anyway, because then, like, when you turn it back on, you have to sync the rest of the blockchain.
Right.
And it's just, like, grossly inefficient.
Well, and even if, like, you're just traveling, and, like, you turn it on for half an hour, and then you turn it off for, like, 6 hours, like, that's not, like, taking up time to download the blockchain. It's more that, like, I think you just need to establish those connections and stuff again, which is interesting. It's an interesting hurdle.
So I think it's cool. I think, like, Lightning messaging would be sick. The question just is, I think, like with anything, it's like, will people go out of their way to use it? I think Bitcoiners probably were. I don't know.
They're in the fridge.
Hey, beer man.
What's up?
What's going on, man? Can I get another beer?
They're
He
wants some of the Zoomer beer.
Fake beer. Fake beer.
Yeah, I thought he was neutered.
What? All right, we're gonna edit that part out. How could you say such a thing about your fellow?
Brandon, you good?
About your fellow colleague?
I'll take another one.
Okay.
I'm good, Graham. I'm gonna drink real beer.
I thought you were a friend.
But yeah, so super cool. Like, it's just a matter of, like, whether or not Bitcoiners or anyone will decide to use it. I definitely think edge cases are interesting, though, and having, like, messaging on Lightning to me makes a lot of sense, especially as it comes in terms of, like, not just, like, invoicing as we talk about it with Lightning itself, but, like, sending, like, actual invoices and sending, like, reminders and things like that, doing push payments, all that kind of stuff.
Totally.
Or push notification payments. All right, so second topic is Phineas Fisher offers 100K bounty to hack banks and oil companies. That is a headline from Vice, who broke this story. And we'll just go ahead and read some of the first paragraph so people can get up to speed. An infamous vigilante hacker known for their hits on surveillance companies is launching a new kind of bug bounty to award hacktivists who do public interest hacks and leaks. Phineas Fisher published a new manifesto on Friday offering to pay hackers up to $100,000 in what they call a Hacktivist bug bounty program. The hacker said he will pay in cryptocurrency such as Bitcoin or Monero. As an example of targets, the hacker mentioned mining and livestock companies in South Africa, Israeli spy vendor NSO Group, and the oil company Halliburton. So Phineas Fisher is some would call him a black hat. I guess definitionally he, like, actually is a black hat, but there's some nuance there. Maybe a gray hat is what we'll call him, because he's hacked into a bunch of different agencies and companies before. He's hacked into the British German surveillance group Gamma, or surveillance tech vendor Gamma Group, which makes this controversial spyware called Fisher. He's also hit the Spanish police force before.
Do you know?
That is a great question, and if we
If
follow
it's not relevant, it's fine.
if we follow this hyperlink, we can get to that.
Okay.
But he's also got involved with Hacking Team, which, if you guys know anything about Hacking Team, they're formerly known as Hacking Team, now known as Neutrino. That's the company that Coinbase bought out, and everyone got like really upset about it because their surveillance technology had been used to basically get like certain journalists in parts of the world killed.
Right.
And it led to human rights abuses with governments like Saudi Arabia, etc. But so Phineas Fisher has been active for a while, and the dude or chick, they have been orchestrating these, like, I'll call them gray hat hackings, where they hack into companies with, maybe dark pasts or who muddy the truth, and they release documents in the public's interest. Like, for instance, a lot of the stuff that came out about Hacking Team was because Phineas Fisher hacked into their devices and leaked it all. So I think it's interesting because, as Vice says, it's like, to be clear, like, this is basically a bug bounty program that incentivizes criminal activity, which is true. But if that criminal activity is unearthing other criminal activity, do the ends justify the means here? Does it balance it out?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot to unpack, right? And I don't know if I have my own opinion formed about it yet. Because on the one hand, in Bitcoin, we kind of go by the rule of thumb that code is law, right? So if these guys are hackable, then it's not bad to hack them because they were hackable, right? It's like they're exploiting something that was there and that was able for them to exploit, and therefore they shouldn't be, looked badly upon, voice crack, to do that. On the flip side, it's this vigilantism that's like so hard to wrap your head around, because it's so easily corruptible in that like you can get kind of the mob to go after someone that's unjustified. They can go way too far. They themselves are deciding who is good and who is bad, and then like trying to dig up dirt on them. I mean, like, for all we know, and like I'm not saying this is true, but like for all we know, Halliburton could be like a very good company doing a lot of good things for the world, and like really doesn't deserve to be targeted as like a huge target to expose everything that they're doing. It's just like, on the one sense, we've gotten to the point where we basically have to let these vigilantes do the dirty work in order to expose the fraud, because we don't have enough like watchdogism left in the world. On the other hand, like, why are we relying on these guys? It's like Batman, right? It's like Batman.
Because we have to.
It wasn't Halliburton the name of the bad corporation in Grand Theft Auto 5.
Was it?
It was like it was Halliburton or Halla, it was something like that.
Can you
It just sounds evil.
total non sequitur? But can you be like this podcast Jamie? Like you watch Joe Rogan?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
you
there
like,
on that.
yeah.
That's sort of.
I think Graham is this. I think Beerman is this
If you can
podcast
hear me.
Beerman.
Yeah, you're the beer man. I think every podcast has like that dude that's like behind the camera that's like doing stuff.
No.
I'll set
He's
myself
not.
up the mic now.
He's not every podcast. He is our podcast.
Yeah,
he's his own thing.
he's like the
It's-
Hank.
it's-
He's like the Hank
innovative.
to our Barstool.
Yeah, but so like, it's so weird to wrestle with like what we're doing here, because
don't you think there's like some moral obligation that these, or a moral like fault that these that this like hacktivist group is breaking by doing this?
can be, but
It's
it
just-
also could not be. Like morality falls with the many. It's the masses who define
in the eye.
morality.
I would say morality is more in like the eye of the person who's like committing it more. I mean, obviously everyone has their opinion, but like that's like the true justification. It's like, what do they believe they're doing? Do they think that it's like right that they're doing this, and that if they like uncover the right things, then like they did the right thing from the very beginning? Or is it like, I mean, it's all in like their own heads how they're justifying it.
Well-
I just don't. I think there's a moral fault here that like they're breaching, like when they do this.
But like, do you think Snowden had a moral fault?
No, because correct me if I'm wrong, Colin. This group they're promoting the like coordinated attack on this company. Like they're trying to hack this company and saying, hey,
Well, they're
To
basically
expose
they're-
potential human rights issues and wrongdoings and
So,
corruption.
that to me sounds like the same kind of argument of what we, and this might be like political or not, but like what we did with when we invaded Iraq. It was like, or even with like the Snowden issue, like when we did surveillance on like our own people. It's like, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? It's like, do we do it because we have a hunch first, and if we have a hunch, then
for
it's
sure.
okay? Or do we do it-
Halliburton has been implicated in some sketchy stuff in the past, for sure. So that's why Phineas Fisher is not singling them out because
Well, so
it's just
I-
one example.
yeah.
But he's also
I just
singling
don't
out
think
the
it's okay.
Israeli, intelligence community, which
Yeah.
is like, by extension, our intelligence community.
Well,
Iraq
actually,
was
I
just
think-
indicted for corruption. So
The Israeli intelligence
Yeah.
community?
no, the Prime Minister.
Bibi, yeah. Bibi, not
So,
Netanyahu, but he's standing trial.
The Israeli
not
group
really
is, I think, like the NSO surveillance group is it's a technology firm. I imagine they probably sell technology to the government. But so like it definitely does raise kind of an ethical and a moral issue. I'm of the mindset that without hackers like this, actually, like we do not actually have a legitimate lens into the inner workings of some of these organizations. And without hackers like this, I'm speaking from a journalist perspective here, like journalists don't have sources that will actually let them look into some of these companies sometimes. Like unless like a whistleblower from the company is coming to them directly, or unless a hacker is like, hey, look, I just hacked all of these documents, I've authenticated them. If you also want to authenticate them, go ahead, but here you go. Without these efforts, we actually don't always know what's going on. And I think, for instance, I think that it's pretty cool.
Do we have a right to always know what's going on?
I think so. I mean, if a company is,
I believe with governments we have a right to always know what's going on. But do I have a right to know what Halliburton is doing with every single part of their operation?
No.
if
you don't.
you're a consumer, well, let's say Halliburton's gas makes it into Shell, BP, etc. If they're selling the gas of this company, and you as a consumer really don't have any other choice but to buy this gas. You're not, maybe you're not rich enough for a Tesla. Even if you had a Tesla, like in Tennessee, they're burning the gas anyway.
I'm in Bitcoin. Of course, I'm rich enough to get a Tesla. Come on.
But like, so like I see your point, and I hear
Just
your
kidding,
point
Windmoon.
about like we can't. That's the next topic. But like we can't like, we can opt out of companies more than we can opt out of the state. But at the same time, though, you're still consuming these things from this company. And this company is paying marketers and PR firms millions of dollars a year to make you think that they're the good guys. They're disingenuous.
It doesn't matter.
Why doesn't it matter?
I don't think it matters on how much marketing they do or anything. It doesn't inherently give you a right to break into their databases and information systems to see what they're actually doing. It doesn't give you the inherent right to know the truth just because you have...
Hypothetical. If a company says we don't do X, we don't, whatever you name it, like especially oil companies. Oil companies have.
If they say they don't do X, then what?
If a company says we don't do this, and they're actually doing that, and then a hacker gets documents to prove that they're doing that, do you deserve to know? Because the company has lied about it. They're not accountable.
Minus that second part of a hacker uncovering it, I think that every company in the world has, for public and PR reasons, and then that's the justification they use afterwards, has said, we don't do this or something, because that's the short version of saying that they do or do not do a version of something that you're making a point at.
But what if it was, for instance, something like Shell, for instance, I think this was in the 90s, they funded militant groups in Africa.
So that's an extremist example.
Basically,
you're right. It makes sense there.
Right, sure. But that's what I'm saying. So, like, if that happens, and like a company is like, "Nah, we don't do these things."
But this is what I mean. I know you have something you want to say, but this is the exact same argument that the United States government used to basically say, "Hey, look, terrorists have used cell phones before. They've used them before. It's happened. We know that. So we're going to inspect everyone's phones. We're going to surveil everything. Basically, abuse of power."
Difference being, that's the United States government, and this is one hacker.
So the way that I'm thinking about it, and like this is my mental model I built, is like Batman. These guys are Batman, right? And like, is Batman a good guy? Yeah. But what made Batman a good guy? Like, he chose to be a good guy, right? And we can all celebrate Batman as long as he's being a good guy, but there's nothing stopping him from being a bad guy. And the more we kind of let Batman run, the easier it is for Batman to make a misstep and become the bad guy. And that's what we're dealing with right here. Like, maybe they're doing, like, maybe every single thing that they've done, every activist hack they've done so far has been an objective good for the world.
Okay, so...
But we're still letting them do this, and they could make a really bad move for the entire world, and there's nothing to hold them accountable. And there's like we can't rely on these one-off vigilantes to be in charge of basically the moral culpability of corporations. There's got to be a better way.
Who's going to do it, though?
I don't know. I mean, that's a problem, right?
What you're distinguishing here is that from the very beginning, like the motive behind even doing anything is good. So like that's what you're distinguishing here, and it's not even what they decide why they're doing it, like the actual person.
It is what they would decide. I mean, what they decide is good.
Right. I'm saying it's not even. It is obviously they decide it too, but it's what the public and like the
right. So I kind of want to get to that too. So for context, Halliburton is Dick Cheney's oil company. Like he used to be the CEO of it, and basically Halliburton.
I didn't know that until just now.
Halliburton profited on contracts made basically from us going to war. Yeah, for us going to war in the Middle East. So, yeah, right? So now you're thinking a little bit differently about this.
Live reaction.
I'm not thinking differently, though, because ultimately I'm not saying that this exact hack isn't going to end up being maybe a good thing. I'm saying this entire
you're worried about
process,
you're worried about the implications going forward.
It just makes me uneasy. And I know that you could take this clip out and you could copy it and paste it into like The Watchmen or into The Dark Knight or into like all these different things that literally wrestle with this exact topic. And I'm no more insightful than they are, writing this show where they spent years thinking about this one topic. All I'm saying is that I don't think there's an easy answer on either side as to how you should view this.
Right. Well, I guess it's kind of, for me, it's the same problem as like, people always talk about how Bitcoin's development is centralized, right? It's like, well, there are really only a handful of developers, like let's say 100 or so, and even like less than that, maybe 25 or so, who can understand Bitcoin enough on the minute level to be able to make the changes in the protocol that are absolutely necessary for it to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
So for something like this, for instance, the government, because we live in an oligopoly in the United States, the government is not going to hold corporations accountable. Corporations, sure as shit, aren't going to hold corporations accountable. So what are we left with? We're left with people who actually have the ability to basically, like, you know, do the 21st century equivalent of pick locking the company safe and seeing what the secrets are. So for me, it's almost like I see where you're coming from, and I do think that's an important point. It's like, you know,
why do you think you're entitled to know what their secrets are?
Because they are telling me, because they're lying to me. That's why.
Dude,
because
hold on,
wait, let me finish this. Because the corporations, through a multitude of tactics and through like multiple avenues, are selling one story, and we will never know the full story.
What's stopping you from just the free market ability for you to just not participate in what they're selling?
Am I just going to stop driving?
What do
I'm just going to stop using my car?
You're using a specific example, so like...
Well, yeah, but because Halliburton was one of the ones that Phineas Fisher pointed out. So, like, I'm using that as a touchstone. Do I just stop using my car? I mean, if I wanted to be a purist, I could do that. Though. Well, it's about consuming gasoline.
I guess
they're an oil company.
You're not consuming it directly from them, so it's completely...
But I might be. I very well... No, but seriously.
You're not... I mean...
No, but what I'm telling you is, dude, is Royal Dutch Shell very well might buy their oil or gasoline from oil... Or from Halliburton.
I think there's a much bigger argument here that oil itself as an industry is very corrupt and manipulative, so like there's a whole different thing to kind of get into here.
I think we're all talking past each other, though. I mean, the real nut of this is, and like to use an example that's prescient to all of us, if Snowden were to say, like, let me back into the country, everyone knows what I did was good for America, and I think we all agree with that, and as soon as I'm back, I'm going to immediately start trying to dig up more shit on the NSA. Right? Like, how does that make you feel versus, let me back into America, I did this one crime, like, it was a crime, technically, but I'm, you know, it's the good of the people, and I'm done, like, I've done the act, let me back, right?
Well, I'd say he'd be stupid to keep digging.
It's much easier to let someone back because they took a swing at a vigilante kind of thing, and they hit a home run. But, like, when you allow people this weird free reign of, I'm going to celebrate you by the fact that you're operating outside of the legal scope of what you should be doing, you really lose the ability to like control that vehicle of regulation, for lack of a better word.
I guess for me, it all boils down to truth to power. It's like, we don't have the resources that these people have. Like, I'm talking about common people. Like, this is part of the reason why we buy Bitcoin, especially as millennials. It's like, we're not going to have pension funds. Like, you know, like the real estate market is out of our grasp in a lot of regards. There are so many things that our parents had access to that we don't. And for something like this, for corporations that basically hold Washington by the balls, I don't feel sorry for them. If you're doing shady shit, someone hacks into your servers, there was a vulnerability, and they take stuff from you, that's the way the game's played, bud. You know, like, we don't have many tools against these people,
True.
But technology is one that we do have. And I guess that's where I come from.
I mean, it's a great point. Yeah, I mean, the last thing I would say is, like, the bigger issue is how do we rewrite Washington in order to, you know, not give corporations this ability to just bully the pot. And I think that
we secede, man.
Dude, if we secede, Russia wins. But like, obviously it's like a way more political, like, get money out of politics, all this kind of stuff that we don't need to bleed into. But like, this is one that, you know, I'm gonna wrestle with for a while.
Yep. All right, so with that one in the bag, let's go ahead and move on to price. So right now we at 7,600. I think
flat.
7,610. So basically, I think this morning I think it touched at lows of 7,400 or something. I saw a tweet about.
Yeah, sure, something around then.
But yeah. So I mean, I don't think this is really that much of a surprise. I think anyone, unless like there was a random BART up, I think anyone looking at the chart for the past, let's see. Really, for the past month, since we made that leap up to 10K, it's just been going down, step down. But yeah, reactions, thoughts.
So from the angle of like someone who has like a bunch of people who, I guess there's a lot of people that like text me like with regard to my opinion about what's going on. And these are people who like are friends from home or like friends or parents of friends. So just complete people who are just interested in Bitcoin because they're interested in Bitcoin, and like they don't really they're just getting into it from different angles. But it's kind of interesting to explain or like try and find reasoning, because obviously there is no real reasoning behind like any price moves. But it's interesting to find reasoning for things like this, because at the end of the day, I think the ultimate answer that I end up giving to basically everybody that asks is there is really no answer. Bitcoin just went down because a lot of people sold it and a lot of people didn't buy it at the same time. But then like you get really if you want to get really nuanced in it, and you go on Twitter and you listen to some people who actually like know what's going on, there's always like different reasons that you can pull from different like parts of the industry. Like this time someone said that someone sold almost 20,000 Bitcoin on Binance in different cells. And then someone else is saying that, that was part of minor capitulation, but it really hasn't been, because it's not nearly the amount that we saw miners selling at when we broke that floor at 5,800 last June. So it's just interesting to see like when the price moves like this, ultimately like, and I know Marty Bent, who has like a really awesome newsletter, he has not talked about the price. He even said this like a couple days ago, but he hasn't talked about the price in, I don't think, ever in his newsletter. And it's for reasons like this, because there's really no reason you can like attribute to this. People trade Bitcoin, like some people have their reasons for selling, buying. So it's just funny to see stuff like this, and there always needs to be an explanation, but there usually isn't.
My take is, I agree with what Mike's saying here, but first and foremost, Bitcoin takes the path of maximum pain. And if you look at when Bitcoin broke all-time highs going into the bull run in 2017, when it broke all-time highs, almost no one was paying attention.
You mean 1,000 or 20,000?
No, 1,200.
1,200.
1,200. Like when it broke that all-time high of the last bubble, no one hardly noticed, except for a few people who were still paying attention to this space. Why did that happen? Because there were so many like flashes of hope that Bitcoin then busted through and kind of defeated people, that like they were worn out and they weren't ready to be hopeful again. And then it slowly just crept up to all-time highs without anyone noticing. That's the path it's going to take once again. And but like you could see even when we had this jump at the beginning of the end of last month, where we jumped up to 10K. Once again, like there was a lot of people who were like, "Oh, here we go!" We're about to go up.
This is the last time you'll see Bitcoin under 12.
Yeah. The classic hodl not tweet, right? But like, as long as there's still that like majority active market participant sentiment of like, "Here we go," Bitcoin's gonna continue to make you hurt. So it's about patience, and it's about hodling, and it's about knowing that ultimately the market works so that there's gonna be another bull run, probably in tandem with the halvening, and like it's an inevitability of the market. But don't try and outsmart yourself going into it and trying to get that extra 20% profit, because it's just obviously this is no trading advice, right? No financial advice, but like Bitcoin's bigger than what it's priced in the past month, and so it's you just gotta understand that like there's bigger things at play here than just what it did today. It's what it did in the past 2 years.
So you're saying, well, so like, because it's interesting, because I have this opinion that I've like slowly been coming to grasps with, but depending on like the amount of eyes that people have on Bitcoin, it's like the majority of people weren't paying attention last time when they broke 1,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
This time, I think we can all agree that a lot of eyes, not that many, still not that many,
not that many eyes.
Not that many.
We're already down to a very few amount of eyes. Like one of my group me's that I'm in of like Bitcoin crypto enthusiasts, that was like thousands of messages every day in like December, January 2017, 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Like I haven't seen a message in there in like a month, 2 months.
I think
Like,
Well,
we're getting close.
Go ahead.
We're getting close.
So this time around, though, we have people who stuck through the bull market or bear market.
Yeah.
And who knows if we're still in the bull market or bear market, whatever. Like, no one knows until the end. But
We had that last time, too. It's just less people. It's an order of magnitude different.
right, but so now we have, like, a lot more people who have these audiences, like, let's just say, CNBC and just news platforms in general.
CNBC's not
So-
paying attention anymore.
I disagree. I think
Where was their article about Bitcoin just dropped $1,000?
I think they got smart. I don't know. I think Joe
I think they're not
Squawk.
paying attention.
I think Joe Squawk, because I mean,
Well, I think
I can say with confidence that neither of us have watched Squawk Box in the last 2 or 3 days, right?
Yeah, for
So
sure.
like, there is a chance they talked about it. I don't know, but basically, like, to just wrap up this point I'm trying to make, it's really just a hot take, honestly, because it's not really something we've talked about. But there's a good chance, I think, because of the fact that there's more people. Obviously, with every cycle, including this one, which is the latest one, watching Bitcoin's moves. I actually don't know if the price is going to do. It's going to behave the same way that we're going to see or that we've seen in the past, because there's more people participating. So just by sheer volume and liquidity size, the market's it's not gonna act that much slower because this is a scarce asset, but it's going to react so much more differently. Where like, I think there will be a lot of people, including some of the people I just mentioned, like the people that text me and like ask me like, "Hey, what's up?" They're going to be pissed off during the halving, like for 6 months a year.
Well, I mean, think about like, so when and if Bitcoin transcends 20K again, that's going to be
It's going to be a long time.
bullish as
Mhm.
hell. I don't think it's going to be that long. If
For
it
us,
does,
What's a long
For us,
time?
it'll be
What do we-
bullish as
what do we
hell.
think is a long time?
I mean, probably like a year, maybe 2. Like, I don't care though. Like, honestly, like, stay under 10K for as long as you can. Bitcoin,
Here's the thing.
because-
Yeah.
For us, it'll be bullish as hell. For the rest of the world, they won't even notice.
No, they will though, because the reason they will is because if Bitcoin, if Bitcoin transcends 20K again, because when it hit 20K, I mean, that was peak fever mania. Like, if you go to a major city in the United States, like a tech city, or at least like a technically inclined, like New York or San Francisco, even when I was in Europe, like in places like Amsterdam and Arnhem, like people know, like commoners know about Bitcoin. Like they've heard about it. If it hits 20K again, they always ask what's the price at, right? If it hits 20K again and goes above 20K, when people see that, the psychological effect that it's going to have on them, they're going to be like, holy shit, Bitcoin was 20K back in 2017.
They're not going to
It's
see it
over
though.
that now.
So they're not going to be paying
they
attention
totally
to see
will.
it.
So
There-
I think that
there
they
will be headlines.
I think that they will see it, but it will take so long to happen that before it happens, it will be this like market of like meh, but still great for people that have been in the space. And then once it happens, it'll take 4 or 5 years, let's say, hypothetically, and then it'll moon, and then everyone's narrative still matches up, right?
You guys underestimate the path of maximum pain. By the time Bitcoin
I'm
hits
describing-
20K, no one is going to notice who isn't in this space, who isn't actively paying attention to it. And then they'll start to notice when it starts making.
Bro, you're telling me right now that like all of these mainstream media outlets, when Bitcoin hits 20K again, are just gonna ignore it. They're just gonna be like, oh yeah, no, fuck that. Like that's not worth talking about. It just hit its other all-time high. Like it went from 20K to 3K back to 20K again.
Look at what happened last time. It hit
Well, but
12,
then you can't compare it. To,
1200
you can't compare it to last time though, because last time there was significantly less attention.
but still attention.
Like,
Yeah,
but
but
no,
it's-
but like
it-
my
Things you
cousins
can't take away.
Yeah, my cousins didn't know about Bitcoin the last time, but they know about Bitcoin this time. Like my friends didn't know about Bitcoin the last time, but they know about it this time.
I mean, that's
Well,
just the
I mean,
natural
to be-
flow of it.
Like, yeah, to be fair, there will be like people that we're all friends with that will they knew about Bitcoin
Sliding
2 years
into
ago.
DMs like, hey man,
They
what's
knew
up?
about Bitcoin 2 years ago. They knew about it now, and in 2 years ago, they'll just casually text you, be like, "Hey man, I heard Bitcoin's doing well, and it's at like 25K," and you're like, "Yeah, bro, it's fucking killing it." And they're like, "Oh, I heard it's just doing well." Like that, people who don't watch it, they're just like, I actually, I'll talk to people today that I just meet like recently, and they'll be like, "Hey, isn't Bitcoin at like 20,000 or didn't it hit that?" And that's all they remember. So
Most of my friends have no idea what the Bitcoin price is right now.
yeah, to an extent,
They're not
I
gonna
do
know
see
when it
that.
hits.
Right,
all-time highs.
but they know the all-time high. And the reason they don't know about the price is because they don't track it. But the second Bitcoin goes above 20K, there will be news articles about it, and they will see it trending on
But there
social.
will be a few news articles about it, but it won't be the focus of the news. It was the focus of the news when everyone.
Why
came in.
wouldn't it be? Because that's all anyone in the mainstream media talks about. I mean, that's all that we talk about. Like, come on. Like, that's all anyone talks
Hey, beer
about.
man.
I couldn't tell you exactly why because it
Yeah,
hasn't
no
happened
worries.
yet. But I'm telling you, Bitcoin takes the path of maximum pain. by the time it's hitting all-time highs, few people are going to notice outside of this space. And it's just it's a artifact of the market.
I disagree though, because so many people took notice and so many people took notice during the bull run.
Dude, I'm glad you brought out the Venezuelan bolivars because
+1 for when you guys give a hot take.
Bro, don't.
Yeah,
don't
a point that I was
going
going to
Bro, I
take.
was going to rain those at the end of the episode.
Ooh, nice. A point that I was going to make though,
sensitive beer man,
is let's play a game real quick. Let's list all of the countries right now that have active protests going on against their government, like big active protests.
Lebanon, Iran, Iraq, Venezuela,
Argentina,
Hong Kong, Argentina,
Chile,
yeah,
Ecuador.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot. Those are the ones
France,
that we know about, right?
France, the Yellow Jackets.
It's kind of died down.
I mean, but still, like in the past
No,
3
that
months.
has not died down at all.
I mean,
The Yellow Jacket protests.
Totally have.
what
I
are like?
disagree.
What
I
are all
think
the? They're all protesting the same kind of thing, even though it doesn't seem like they are. Maybe Hong Kong's the difference.
Or Iran is protesting a very similar issue to Hong Kong.
Well, really, Iran, like Hong Kong was protesting China's involvement with their economy and government. Like,
Yeah.
but most of these
It's
other
all about corruption and wealth inequality.
I think it's all about inflation.
Which is wealth inequality.
Well, yeah, but like,
I think it's neither. I think it's more just governments having too much control. Like that's as far as like the argument takes it. Like
Not
the public
really, though.
argument.
I mean, like Chile was protesting the 3% increase or 3-cent increase in subway fares,
Sure.
and it went to like a full on like I can't. If there's not a better like token, like look at what the world is actually feeling right now, than Chile.
What's your point?
Even the smallest 3-cent increase in subway charges caused a full-on countrywide riot. Right? Like
I think it was
people
a
are
breaking point.
primed. Like people see
It was.
an inequality. Dude, that's pretty sick. People like can sense the inequality, even though they can't put their finger on it. That somehow the rich are getting richer and they're not getting richer. And the reason why, and like Ray Dalio had his good piece coming out recently about this too. But like we're seeing inflation, we're seeing it in America. We're just not seeing it through the right lens. Inflation is happening through the price of assets. It's not through the price of consumer goods. It's the fact that houses cost more to buy. It's the fact that stocks cost more to buy. Like the ways by which you save, the ways by which your
The
net
bar
worth
to
grows.
access is becoming increasingly higher.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, how do I, without Bitcoin, in America today, as a millennial, fresh out of college kind of guy,
Gold.
like, how do I store my
Gold.
store my wealth?
That's literally the only thing is gold or Bitcoin.
Yeah, but like honestly,
I
dude,
can't
being
afford a
honest,
house.
I don't know how to fucking buy gold tomorrow.
Yeah, I know.
Literally, just are you shitting me? You're a millennial. Just Google buy gold. Like it's not difficult.
like yeah, that's how you
Go to a pawn shop.
Okay, I guess that's how that's how simple it is.
But
What if I buy gold Wednesday?
hey,
Go home. Shh, don't tell your wife.
but yeah, it's like everyone's saying like inflation isn't happening, right? Everyone's saying inflation isn't happening. Everything's fine. Like, look at us. Somehow we have this money market theory where we can keep printing money, and like we're not going to have inflation in the market. Everyone's going to be fine. No, it's not, because inflation's happening in the ways by which people like retire and are able to like not worry about their next paycheck and live month to month. And it's like that's the thing that people aren't realizing, is that that's where these protests are coming from. It's not the fact that like the subway costs 3 cents more.
It's the breaking point.
It's that the subway costs 3 cents more, and we still don't have a freaking way to like save money in order to like absorb that cost.
It's the breaking point.
Alright, so what's your point as
It's
it relates?
inequality.
Yeah,
It's mostly inequality.
Well,
But it's not even inequality.
Yeah.
It's like
it's inflation.
like,
It's
which
Plan
is,
B.
which leads to inequality.
It's
so
Plan
we're all
B.
saying the same
right,
thing.
right. But it's like these people that have right now they have no other option. So it's like they've been dealing with this for so long, and this is finally the breaking point where they're like, okay, like stop. Like there's no more that we can like take with this because we don't have a plan B.
For sure. But what was your point with that with Bitcoin?
Well,
Or with like the price stuff?
that don't be too worried about like Bitcoin's next bull run, because these are the market forces that are going to move the next one.
Right, which is
It's-
another reason why I think people are going to pay attention. So I'm kind of confused why you were saying they wouldn't pay attention, because it kind of sounds like you're saying that they should pay attention.
They should, but they won't. It's just they won't.
Well, I mean, that's why we gotta evangelize, y'all.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, that's our job,
So,
right? We're Bitcoin Magazine. We've got to teach everyone about what this thing is.
The funny thing about all of this is that Bitcoin's value has never, ever, ever fundamentally been driven by how much the media pays attention to it. It's just it's pieces of the world realizing that there's...
I disagree in the sense that if you saw, well, you did see when Bitcoin was just ripping in November and December.
Right.
But when Bitcoin was ripping in December,
that's why I said
November,
primarily.
Yeah, right. But yeah, that's a good point.
So that's what I mean. Like November, basically half of 2017 was what you're talking about, which is like the media helping something where they're just pumping the price of a scarce asset, and it just got so many people in. But in general, from 0 to 10,000 or 0 to 1,000. 0 to whatever market cap you want to put in Bitcoin to make it more like a smooth number, that value appreciation has never been due to marketing, media. Because, I mean, how is it created? Mailing list. How is it invested in? Mining. And just all these different things that people assigned value to it and invested in it based on what it did, not what the media said.
The media causes the bubbles.
The bubbles, yeah, absolutely, yeah. It causes the bubbles and the crashes, the whole cycle. The media helps those. It's the human herd mentality that.
But it also hurts everyone else because now they're buying into a bubble.
I mean, the media is human, so the media just feeds into a human thing that we all have, which is
yeah.
I mean, let's all be honest. When Bitcoin was at 10,000 in June in the conference, I think we all thought that that was the next wave. Let's go. I mean, I don't think anyone was screaming in the office let's sell everything right now because we're for sure good. You can't tell that much. You can tell.
It's hard. It's hard unless you zoom out, and it's hard to zoom out,
and
especially when things are going well.
It's hard to think for yourself too, especially in an industry like this.
Mm-hmm.
You have all these people, and that's one of those things that I like and don't like about Twitter right now, because the best people who come up with their own opinions and their own moves and obviously not obviously, but sometimes look better in retrospect. They don't bounce their opinions off people on Twitter and gauge their opinions off that. It's it's hard when you're in an echo chamber, I guess, especially if you're trading.
For sure, bro. We are definitely an echo chamber. All right, and on that note, I think that's a good stop.
Wow, that was so cool.
Was it cool?
A bad radio. I just threw a bunch of fiat in there.
All right, well, anyway, I think that rounds out this week's episode. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. Tune in next week, and deuces.